Have you heard a lot of people give you tips about how to speak better? Have you been searching for ways to improve your language skills? And maybe you're even just thinking, I'm tired of tips. Well, on that note, I can't help you because today I really do want to give you 3 tips to improve your language skills. But what I can tell you is these tips are not perfect. They're not the only 3 tips, nor are they the perfect tips that are going to make you speak perfectly. But what they are 3 tips that I use when I speak and that I've taught hundreds of people to use that have improved their speaking skills. So these are tips that will help you speak better, tips that will help you speak more confidently, and tips that hopefully will make you okay and make you move towards being proud of the way that you do speak. If you don't know me already, hi, I'm Maureen Turnbull-Arbelo, and I'm the founder of Prepare Integrative Language Coaching. And really my mission and dream is to celebrate your language success, to help empower you to confidently cross the borders of language and culture that can but do not have to divide us. And I'm here to celebrate all of your victories with you. That's my greatest goal, is to celebrate your language victories with you. And in order to do that, well, we need to speak, right? So today I thought, let's talk about 3 things that I think are key to improving your speaking skills. I love acronyms. I think all of us love acronyms. Acronyms can help us remember things, and they're kind of funny sometimes, and well, they just help. They help make things make sense. So I'm going to give you an acronym for these 3 I'm going to give you today. We'll call it BAC, but BAC with a B-A-C. So what do I mean by BAC? Well, number 1, breathe. Number 1 is breathe. This I put as number 1 because it's actually the hardest for me. Of course I breathe, otherwise I'd be dead, and all of us breathe because it's an essential for life. But we often don't focus on our breath, and that can actually help us to speak, and it can help us to speak more slowly. In English, I speak quite quickly. Whether that's good or bad, well, it's up for debate, but it's something that is part of me, and as long as I can remember, I speak quite quickly. So that's something that makes it difficult, and it's probably one of the biggest reasons I make so many mistakes when I speak Portuguese, because in Spanish and in other languages, because I try to speak quickly and oftentimes as quickly as I do in English. And let me tell you, your head can't catch up with your mouth. And I say that, but it's true. When I take the time to actually take a little breath, speak a little bit slower, my brain has much more time to think. And in English, that's necessary just to be articulate. But in Portuguese and the other languages I speak, it's necessary for me to conjugate correctly. It's necessary for me to use the correct articles. And those are the things that I make the most mistakes with when I try to speak fast. When I do speak fast, but I'm not careful about how quickly I'm speaking. So number 1, take a breath and just try to speak a little bit more slowly. Don't speak like this, but also don't speak like this. It doesn't mean, being a native speaker, being fluent, doesn't mean speaking quickly. It means speaking well. And it's better to make less mistakes and speak a little more slowly than to speak too quickly. And it's hard for people to understand us when we speak quickly. So like I'm saying, it's not a great thing that I speak English so quickly. And it's actually something I work on in my native language. And it's something I have to work on a lot in my non-native languages. So breathe. And number 2 is accept. Accept. Accept that there are some mistakes that we do make. Accept that we do make mistakes. Accept that you're not going to be perfect. We're perfectly imperfect and we're always making mistakes, and that is okay. Accept the mistakes that you've already made when you're speaking. When we speak and then we go back and we try to correct what we've said, we usually ended up mumbling over our words and rethinking and losing our train of thought and no. If you made a mistake, you made a mistake. I often want to prove that, no, I know that. Okay, maybe if I make a little mistake, I'll go back and fix it. But for the most part, okay, we made a mistake, we move on, and we accept it. So, accept it. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Hopefully, you won't make that same mistake again. And if you do, well, at a certain point, maybe you won't. Right? But our goal is not to be perfect. Our goal is to speak with confidence. And the only way to get there is to stop beating ourselves up for the mistakes that we do make. So, accept them. Yeah, accept your imperfect perfection. And the third one, the C for back, is can. Yeah? What do I mean by can? Say what you can. So often, well, in our native language, we, I think we're so articulate. Oftentimes we are, especially when we're people who work with words. I love words. I love to write, and I actually like to public speak. And so I do, and I love words, and I love language, and I want to use a perfect word for this and the perfect word for that, and know the meaning and know all of the history. That's true. But when I'm speaking in another language, I can't try to say it in maybe as flowery of a way as I would in English. Of course, the better I get, the more flowery and the more I can embellish and the more poetic I can make my language, and the more I can use slang, and the more I can really express my personality in another language. But I just stop myself when I try to speak the way I do in English. Then I stop myself because I'm trying to do exactly what I do. And I can't do that in another language. So I think that C is probably, well, all of these are not easy to do, but I think this one can be quite difficult. But I want you to try this. When you want to say a particular word and you can't think of it, use a different word. It's not the perfect word. It's not the perfect word you want to think of. Maybe you don't even know the word for elbow. Well, go like this. Or say, you know, that pointy thing at the end of your arm. Is that perfect? No. But somebody will understand. Because your mind, the more you try to remember something, the more difficult it is to access. Because that's the way our conscious and our subconscious mind work. So don't force yourself and try to remember that and try to say it like this. The more you force yourself, the more uncomfortable you will become and the more difficult actually the process will become. So really this goes with accepting and to saying what you can and to coming up with creative ways to say what you can. And there are a lot of ways to say something. And you don't have to use that perfect word. And you might find out there's even better ways to say it. So I really challenge you. Try these 3 tips and think about them and use them and see if they help. I hope they do. If you've got some tips that you love, please share them with us. I'd love to know what helps you and what's helped you make the biggest strides and what you've seen work for people and what you've seen not work for people's speaking skills. So please share. That's what we're here for supporting each other and celebrating our victories. So with that, thank you so much for being with me today. It's a great pleasure as always to talk to you. Have a fabulous day. Much light, much love, and I'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.